If you're like me, you love Gravity Falls. I think I've uploaded enough videos at this point to prove it, but seriously, I can't get enough of it. So why not do the YouTuber thing and make a ranking video, but not just ordinary ranking video? No. I could just rank every episode of Gravity Falls ever like a normie, but I can't help but want that little demon inside me to take over and corrupt my brain. So instead of that straight normal shiz, here's every episode of Gravity Falls ranked by the first line. I plan on making loads of weird little ranking videos like these, so I thought, why not start with the idea that literally says first in the dang concept. If you actually end up enjoying this clearly amazing and worth your time video, make sure you hit that bell after you subscribe to never miss an upload. Like actually, if you guys end up liking this idea, I'll keep doing them. It's fun to look at and judge these episodes like an insane person with the weirdest particular taste. But the rules are simple. I'm judging each episode by the first line said by a character. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm even looking through each of the transcripts just to make sure the first block of text is what we're judging these entire 20-minute episodes by. And then they are each going to be ranked worst to best. Without further ado, let's get right into the ranking. Disappointed! Now, are you ready to see the absolute worst first line in any Gravity Falls episode? Yep, that's it. Now I realize the first line is way less than if I did something like the first scene, so there's really not much to go on at all, but I'm in too deep to back out now. What am I gonna do? Not rank every first line of this children's cartoon? I made these rules and must follow them, lest be led to damnation. So anyways, this one's the worst. This is the first line said in the season 2 episode, Blendon's Game. This concept is really stupid, I know, but also this episode would have to have the worst first line. With how I'm thinking of ranking these, I'm going between how they set up the episode, if they get the viewer engaged, and, most importantly, if I find it funny or entertaining. So even though this first line creates some intrigue by it being a man running away while someone yells, "Halt!" that's still all it is. This is even a perfect showcase of what Gravity Falls isn't. Like, you might think I'm crazy for going this hard, but look at what video you clicked on. So imagine with this first line, you click on a Gravity Falls episode, seeing not a single one of the main characters, instead being only a hooded figure with even a futuristic design. So you might even think you clicked on a random adventure like with a CalR style like the Owl House, but instead of witches, it's some Blade Runner Edge Runners biz. A first line screaming "halt" is nothing, as you'll see later, and even without that, who says halt? They'd even say something like "time halt," like later when Blendon falls, it goes, "My time knee."
Ow! My time knee! Oh, time, dang it!
And I need to say all of this and go this deep about this one line because what else do I talk about when rating these first lines? This may have been a mistake, but I'm just not stopping. This video is 100% going to be longer than my others while being this stupid. I could have just made another video talking about how cool Grunkle Stan is, but no. I had to be a YouTuber and do an episode ranking, but not just any episode ranking. That's too easy. I had to do okay. I need to calm down. I have 39 more to go, and this is only the first one. Oh my god.
Bird up.
Now, if you're an idiot, you'd say that this is the exact same as the last one, but no. This one is leagues ahead in terms of being a first line. See, this is said after the incredible iconic episode of Not What He Seems, the season 2 episode, A Tale of Two Stans. So even though it's still one character telling another to stop or slow down, this one holds hype, which is the only reason this isn't in last place, because as you'll see later in the list, there are ones that aren't just one word. But turns out these two one-word intros of someone yelling at someone running, this episode is way better. Also, I just like the way that bird looks. I don't know how to explain it. Just look at that bird. Look at that bird and think about how cool he looks compared to you. Maybe I'm just projecting at this point. Next episode.
Well, I like D&D. I understand that someone like you wouldn't understand.
Shut up!
Now this one is an actual sentence, but has a glaring issue as to why it's down so low. Let's see if you can tell.
I just ate a bag of cheese boodles without using my hands. Lazy Tuesday, you are delivering in a big way.
Now this one is actually the episode after A Tale of Two Stands, being the episode Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons. Now if we were comparing the cold opens and or the first scenes, this one would have lost heavily compared to A Tale of Two Stands. But this first line is an actual sentence instead of one word, and even has one of the main characters saying it. But the main reason it's this low on the list is because of how this sets up the episode barely, and in fact, isn't even funny. Like, this episode is mainly exploring how Great Uncle Ford fits into the family dynamic while he's here, and Dipper bonding with him, being barely about Mabel or Lazy Tuesday compared to Ford existing.
Well, call me for dinner.
But more interestingly, this line is only made to be one of those reversal jokes. You may not know that term, but you know what I'm talking about. It's like when a character goes, "Aw, they're so cute," and then the creature makes a scary face. I think those jokes are pretty boring, IMO. It's actually the main reason I don't like Amphibia, at least for its first season. Mabel was saying about how calm and boring it is, just so something exciting can happen in a second.
So ever.
Though I do like the animation of the bag blowing up, I think it's neat. I think that's neat.
I just ate a bag of cheese boodles without using my hands.
Wait, did you see that? She's a liar! Look at her fingers! She did not in fact eat a bag of cheese boodles without using her hands. I literally see every single visible digit on her fingers absolutely coated in orange. So then I guess Mabel is a liar and a terrible person. When will her reign of terror stop with her little sociopathic tendencies of lies and deceit? See how crazy this whole project has made me? In order to find literally anything to talk about their first line of dialogue, I'm talking about Mabel's finger cheese.
I just ate a bag of cheese boodles without using my hands.
Whenever I'm talking to my therapist about when it all went wrong, I'm just gonna yell at them, "Mabel's finger cheese!" and then just break down crying. And then
Okay! Whoa, that cloud looks like a chipmunk.
Alright, I know, but hear me out on why this one is better, because you already know why it's down so low. Dude, I cannot wait to get some of the lines that are literally anything and not just, "Whoa, that cloud looks like a chipmunk."
Whoa, that cloud looks like a chipmunk.
Compared to the other scene of Mabel lying while laying down on her back, this one is exciting and even a little cute. Like her being so excited about the cloud being a chipmunk and then a plane being barfed out is so fun and cute. Unlike the last one, she gets it lying to our face about not eating with her hands. Like that is undeniably a cloud that looks like a chipmunk. That is undeniably a cloud that looks like a chipmunk, which adds intrigue to a viewer just turning in. Like that cloud is perfectly shaped compared to the usual looking vague clouds. And even right next to it is a star, which could also be a shooting star cipher wheel reference. Cipher wheel reference. Cipher wheel reference. I'm a boy, I go. Cipher wheel reference. Cipher wheel reference. Shooting star cipher wheel reference.
Looks like a
shooting star.
This episode is the love god. In terms of introduction to the episode, it doesn't do much besides set up this single scene, but it's still a cute, adorable little first line on the list.
Whoa, that cloud looks like a chipmunk.
I guess the last thing I can say is that I love how small Mabel's arm is on the screen, but you can still see 4 distinct colors on her sweater, showing how much of a banger of colors that sweater is going to be in a second, which is interestingly a rainbow sweater in an episode all about love. Smells kind of suspicious of pride. Pride! Smells like a lot of pride. Smells like a lot of pride. Pride! Smells like a lot of suspicious amount of pride. This next one is an awesome This next one is the awesome sauce episode, Northwest Mansion Mystery. This episode shows up the most in every video I make for some reason, and whenever I say the title, this cool artwork shows up. Watch what happens when I say Northwest Mansion Mystery. See, there it is. There it is.
Preston, I must say, the guest list for this year's party has so much diversity.
Now, the reason this is higher than the others is because of how this is the perfect intro for this episode. The entire episode is about this party, to where even Dipper is forced to dress up in a suit. So having Preston's trophy wife having the first line addressing the man of the house about how great the guest list is, as if they didn't make it, says a lot in just one line. It shows how pompous they are. Even having her look at the guest list house while overlooking the town, seemingly thinking they are higher, more important beings than the entire town, which is also a really important aspect to this episode. But this has to be fairly low because it's not like a joke or a full concept of a line really. Again, much like others, it's set up for the next second line. Which is how you're supposed to write a show good. Like literally, what good show has the first line be so gushing important for every episode? Like it will always lead to another character responding in order to have banter or dialogue. So the first line really isn't that important. Anyways, now for the 35th place on my first line rankings. Yay! Yippee!
That's it! I know what we're gonna do today!
You're gonna have to bear with me here, but trust me when I say that this one is better than the others so far. Okay, here it goes.
Summer break.
Now listen to me. Now this is the very first episode of the entire show, Tourist Trapped. And I know some of you brain ruined fans like me are like, hey, where's the rest of this famous copy pasta quote from Dipper? Well, here's the problem with that here.
Break.
So do you want cheese on that, hon?
This one guy ruined this famous quote that starts the show because my rules are the first line said by a character, meaning they can't be interrupted. You don't even know how high on this list this line would be because of how ruined my brain is from having watched this show for the past 12 years since the first episode came out. But this guy, this random background character that doesn't even get reused enough to be a recognizable background character, ruined this moment for me for this ranking. Reduce this infamous first quote of this entire show down to
Summer break.
I hate this man. I hate him so much for this. I require hate edits or something because this one random guy who matters not at all to this incredible, amazing show ruined my hyper-specific list ranking of every Gravity Falls episode. But the reason it's higher than all the rest is because I find this
Summer break.
to be funny as crap. And I think besides it being ruined, it's still a pretty good first line to get into not only this episode, but the whole show itself.
Are you ready for the ultimate challenge?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I scare you by playing the clip straight up? But yep, that's it.
Are you ready for the ultimate challenge?
Now this is ahead of the iconic first episode's line because it creates much more intrigue. Like even though we know it's not anything too crazy, Mabel's still going,
Are you ready for the ultimate challenge?
are you ready for the ultimate challenge? Which is crazy paired with a syrup bottle making that face, being called Sir Syrup. Like I'm already engaged to figure out what episode 2, The Legend of the Gump Walker, has in store for me as a viewer.
Are you ready for the ultimate challenge?
It even has that playful music and an obvious hand holding up the syrup bottle that looks like a man, showing how much quirky and fun this episode will have in store. And given this episode was actually made before episode 1 in production, I find it interesting that episode 2 is actually ahead in terms of the first line. I'm scared my fixation on Gravity Falls has gone too far. But you know what? Now instead of being the guy known who made a 14-minute video about a child show car ride, now I can be a guy who made a who knows how long video talking about the first line of every Gravity Falls episode. But not only that, ranking them worst to best, meaning that I have to compete this with this.
Summer break.
You tell me which one is better. I swear, I better not get comments saying that I ranked these wrong. I will find you. And I will make you hurt.
Are you ready for the ultimate challenge?
Are you ready for the ultimate challenge?
You were like, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Are you ready for the ultimate challenge? Sorry, my impression was a little too good there.
You stupid.
Read a book or something, I don't know.
Here's what most fans believe to be a top 5 episode of the show, ranked at the bottom 10 of my list. The season 2 episode, Sock Opera. This being an episode that changed how many fans enjoyed the show and solidified Bill Cipher as an incredible antagonist, redefining his character from his brief introduction in the season 1 finale. Anyway, here's the line.
All right, Mabel. today's the big day.
Alright Mabel, today's the big day. Now your question may be, why is this so high on the list? Well, this first line is much more interesting than you may think. Dipper going, today's the big day, while reaching into his bag inside of a library is very interesting because of intrigue. By this point of the show, we know that Dipper is trying to find the author, and the last time we see this plot point, he got a laptop. Now, right next to him is as well a computer, so even without seeing him pull it out, we can already assume what he's doing. This line also sets up most of the plot of this entire episode, and even the conflict. Dipper is excitingly telling Mabel about something big today, which not only excites the viewer about what the big thing is, first of all, but secondly sets up that Dipper wants to do this process with Mabel, which is the conflict of this episode. A big reason why Dipper gives in to Bill to figure out the laptop's password is due to Mabel pushing him aside once again to focus on the crush of the week. Bill uses this weakness to manipulate Dipper into taking the deal. And the whole resolution to the episode is Mabel finally sacrificing something she wants for Dipper instead. So in terms of setting up the episode and creating intrigue, this episode does amazing for its first line. Also, that read sign is super funny. Like, wow, have you seen this sign? This book screams at a book they are reading, which itself is also screaming. With the sign saying read, like, I guess that's what this poster in the library means, I don't know. And then in the bottom left of the poster, the fish is screaming as well. Just a confusing time for everyone involved. Besides all that, besides everything I said, the line is still...
Alright, Mabel, today's the big day.
Making one of the best episodes of the show down to 33rd place of a possible 40, being the 8th worst episode of the entire show. Almost makes you think maybe an entire episode shouldn't be judged by its first line. The 9th worst episode of Gravity Falls has to be the last Mabelcorn. The episode begins with a shot of Bill Cipher looking through the house that'll eventually lead to his confrontation with Ford himself, with Ford's first line being,
I know that laugh. Show yourself!
And while this is a good line and all, it's not the first line of this episode. The true first line said in this wild episode is,
Princess Lovacorn says,
Buy my 42 accessories.
so that makes the first line not this cool first confrontation of Bill Cipher and Ford after all these years, and instead a capitalism joke with Mabel stuffed unicorn.
Princess Lovacorn says,
Buy my 42 accessories.
But this is still pretty good, especially compared to the others, because this is a full joke and even relates to the plot of the episode. The episode is literally called The Last Mabelcorn, so Mabel having a stuffed animal unicorn while she sleeps ties into the later plot beat of Mabel being obsessed with unicorns. She even admits to Ford later that her literal first word of her entire life was unicorn.
I am literally obsessed with unicorns. My first word was unicorn. I once made my own unicorn by taping a traffic cone to a horse's head.
What? That's wild, Mabel. So as you can see, that's why it's this high on the list, but why is it down this low? Well, it'd have to be that it's not that interesting or overly engaging. Like, the line itself isn't engaging or even that funny to most of the audience watching, because we're more scared of the demon that's watching the child sleep in the scene. Like, the perspective of this shot comes from outside into the house, so everyone is assuming it's Bill. So we're not going, funny capitalism unicorn. Instead, we're going, Mabel, wake up, there's a demon at the end of your bed, and not the hot kind.
Princess Lovacorn says,
Buy my 42 accessories.
That plush is cute though. I'd love to have it. Give it to me now.
Who wants to go on a road trip?
Now, you won't believe what scraped its way up to the 10th worst episode slot. Instead of the usual bottom 3, it would be on most fans' lists. It's the infamous bottom tier episode, Roadside Attraction.
nice. And don't forget bug spray. It's perfect for spraying in the face of hitchhikers.
Now, this is higher than the others because of it being a main character saying a full sentence that can be considered a joke. Grunkle Stan puts a sticker that says, "Caution, Silver Fox at the wheel," and I think that's awesome considering he's a GILF for our favorite GILF. Grunkle, I like frantically. This line even perfectly sets up the main aspect of this episode, which is the road trip aspect. Even though I hate that plot, it at least sets it up, so I'm not gonna let my dislike of this entire episode be affected with this first line. Because besides any of that, Grunkle Stan just straight up sounds weird.
And don't forget bug spray. It's perfect for spraying in the face of hitchhikers.
Like, it's either the particular voice the voice actor is doing, or like the audio directioning. Like the opposite of when I went too deep in that Pacifica car ride scene in that one video. But I love the way that the audio directioning is. I know this is weird. Am I talking about? Yeah, I'm talking about the audio directioning in this Cartoon Kids show. Hello everybody, it's MrMatter. I do that. I'm a freak. I have problems with my brain and Gravity Falls is the only solution, okay? Isn't it crazy that I said stupid crap like that and somehow got over 300,000 views? Like, that's stupid.
Bug spray. It's perfect for spraying in the face of hitchhikers.
I also don't think the joke is that funny. It even has the viewer distracted like the unicorn one. We're thinking about the fact that they're having a trip rather than thinking of Grunkle Stan bug spraying hitchhikers in the face. Like, Stan, you could just not pick them up, dude. Like, just drive by. Well, maybe actually that's what he's doing. Just leaning out the window and bug spraying some random guys on the side of the road. This would be way higher on the list if that was an actual scene in the episode.
Nice. And don't forget bug spray.
But wait, if you look right next to Grunkle Stan, you'll see this stupid do not touch box that Mabel took from Dipper's room for no reason, just so Wendy can be a crush character instead of a real person. Urgh. This episode was originally going to be a full Wendy episode, but then they couldn't think of anything, so at the last minute they did a road trip idea they thought of before, which is fine and dandy because the idea of that sounds fun and clever. But then they made it all about Dipper being a womanizer and cuts out Ford and Wendy from the roster, even though Suze, who is also just an employee and is there, which we literally see in this shot of this first line. Oh no, I did the thing where I rant again. Maybe I really should go to therapy and work out that Mabel's finger cheese thing.
Feed me, Carbon! Feed me now!
Well, hello there, traveler. I see your car broke down on this lonesome country road. A place so remote that no one can hear your screams.
I think this one does a great job at setting up this episode. This entire episode is a guy going to the mystery shack late at night because his car broke down. So Grunkle Stan does the obvious thing any sane man would do in this situation and try to sell the guy things that are useless for his situation and tell stories to make him want to buy it more. And this line even has a funny joke of no one can hear your screams. And then the guy backs up because, like, why would you say that?
No one can hear your screams. Pretend I didn't say that.
This episode is Little Gift Shop of Horrors, but overall, I think this first line is kinda whatever. Like, I don't care too much one way or the other, but Grunkle Stan sounds like Grunkle Stan here without his voice breaking or whatever was happening in the last one.
And don't forget bug spraying in the face of hitchhikers.
This is probably the most C-tier, middle-of-the-road intro out of this entire list, even being a C-. So Grunkle Stan, I'm going to give this I'm going to walk to the town out of buy your merchandise.
Tales designed to sell my merchandise.
Isn't it weird that Grunkle Stan just drugs and kidnaps this guy with both Mabel and Dipper just fully complicit with this happening? Like, I get that they can be morally but I feel like Mabel is too kind and Dipper is too smart to just be like, yeah, Grunkle Stan, we'll just let you keep this guy in a glass box for hours. In fact, Grunkle Stan, I'll just read my Guardstrong book while Mabel plays tic-tac-toe with him.
I don't think you're playing this right.
Sack of misery.
Now this scene is Grunkle Stan at his peak compared to the last one and even the one before that. He's actually giving a tour to some guys and uses his infamous sack of mysteries.
For tonight's final illusion, we have the incredible sack of mystery. When you put your money in, it mysteriously disappears.
This is missing the second half of the joke where they all go, oh yeah, I'll put money in this bag. But I still think it's a pretty funny on its own because he'll 100% believe without a doubt in his mind that they will just start putting money in there. And the sack even jingles when he moves it.
Sack of mystery.
This is the very 4th episode of the show, The Hand That Rocks Mabel. And this first line sets up a later detail of Gideon stealing everything that the Mystery Shack has, even down to having a Seuss even down to having a Seuss copycat. So this scene is higher because it doesn't have much that detracts from the first line, but it's still lower than 28 other episodes because of it just not being that much in terms of how good a first line can be.
When you put your money in, it mysteriously disappears.
This is why I say the last one was like a C-, because while I have a lot to say about things that are bad towards the bottom, or even just have interesting details about the scene itself, there is nothing more I can praise or criticize about these episodes' first lines. Besides, maybe the bag looks cool with all those stitch marks and stuff.
Don't say it, Little Dipper.
Now, this first line is so long, I can't even play the whole thing without getting in trouble. This is the episode Little Dipper, and has Gideon plotting on how to get revenge on the Pines family. To give context of how long this line is compared to the others, the bottom 6 slots I've ranked has their first lines being as long as this one, which is a huge reason as to why it's so high on the list, because how many concepts can you get across through a monologue of just Gideon?
Zombie attack? Never works. They don't take orders. Blood rain? Ew, that's in my suit. No, thank you.
Even up to here, this clip has lots that is said. This is another random mention of zombies, which appear a lot more than you would think across the show if you watch my facts video. But that also means that Journal 2 also has zombies, and supposedly a way to summon them since Gideon was supposed to use them to attack the Pines family.
Blood rain? Ew, that's in my suit. No, thank you. Demon caterpillars?
I love that the only reason he doesn't use literal blood rain is because it ruined his suit. Also, like the demon caterpillars, because like, what even is that? Stuff like this is why I'd love to see more of the other journals. I even made a whole video about just the ghost of Gravity Falls that was mainly about the Journal 3. So considering zombies are in both volumes, I wonder if there's more information that we could have had. But yeah, anyways, demon caterpillars?
Demon caterpillars? Drat! There must be a perfect way to exact vengeance on the Pines family. It's not enough to harm them. I need to take something from them.
I love that he slams that book so hard because of demon caterpillars. And then he has the gall to say drat. Like, that's some halt level lyrics. But I didn't fully recognize that this was the scene where Gideon decided that what he wanted was the shack.
I need to take something from them. Something that'll give me ultimate power. Wait, of course! It's perfect.
Like, most of us first watching this show are like, oh, he's saying the shack is the ultimate power, when actually it's the other journal. This isn't even fully revealed until the finale of season 1. So having episode 11, the halfway point of the season, be the point where he comes up with the idea is so cool. Because this line is exactly why we get introduced to Bill Cipher in the first place, since Demon says backwards message reversed a couple of times until he's summoned. Though the scene doesn't lead to much in terms of the episode itself. Like, Gideon comes in with different plans in the B plot until he literally just stumbles into Mabel and Dipper fighting for the 50th time. Only this time they had a glowing and shrinking. I put glowing, even though it's supposed to be growing. Like, that's a flub I would do like naturally in my mouth, not like on the script.
Maybe he didn't see us use it and doesn't know it's a magic flashlight that can grow and shrink things.
Really?
Really?
So both the A and B plot combine. Though when I first watched this episode a couple of different times as a kid, I was always like, this episode wasn't that cool. And now I realize that was because this intro was setting up the season 1 finale, more than setting up just the episode itself. And all of that was because of this first line.
It's perfect.
You know what? Maybe this ranking video wasn't that big of a mistake after all. This one first line literally caused so much of my enjoyment of this entire episode that it set the expectation to a degree that left me unsatisfied when I first watched it. Like, obviously not every episode is equal in judging this way, but clearly there's something to it that makes the first line so important that it can affect this much, at least to my first time watching this. Or maybe I'm just reaching.
Here we are, the Summerween Superstore.
Now, I may need to defend why this is higher than the last one considering how much I praised it, but hear me out. We instantly have a joke of Stan skidding his Stanmobile into the handicap spot, then taking barely a second before he steps out and goes, "Here we are."
Here we are!
Then immediately after that Gravity Falls-ness, we get him going the Summerween store.
The Summerween Superstore.
This episode is literally called Summerween, so in terms of setup and jokes, this did a lot in such a small amount of time. Compare that to the last one where it's so long that I couldn't play the whole thing at once. This one has action and intrigue of how rough they drive the car in, and then instantly hits you with the words of introducing the concept of Halloween happening in summer only within Gravity Falls, but it being so popular that they have a Summerween Superstore.
The Summerween Super...
This is such a fun and fast way to introduce the episode and efficiently use of the first line. We even see every main character besides Wendy, which I also love that Mabel is sitting on Grunkle Stan's side, but just because the camera wouldn't see her if she gets out on his side, so she goes out on Dipper's instead.
Here we are, the Summerween Superstore.
I just find little details like that cute, I don't know. And I assume you do too if you're watching this far into such a weird video. You're a freak, but hey, I'm right here with you too. I also like how Mabel and Suze both close their doors, but Grunkle Stan just does it. Like he wants to monologue about the store he drove them to so bad. And just him parking in the handicap spot even sets up how much shenanigans they get up to when they actually get into their supermarket that's dressed up as a spirit Halloween. To the point they are getting kicked out and get called out by name.
Have the police come and eject the Pines family from the store.
Not today!
My eyes!
Like, the Pines family are straight menaces for everyone in town. Or at least his poor minimum wage worker who gets gassed and even given fake money. How did Stan not get in trouble for that? He literally stole from people who know their name. But I guess there's just such a minimum wage worker that all that they can say is,
I hate Summerween.
Morning, Dipper. Guess who?
so why did I put something this stupid above the previous one?
Morning, Dipper. Guess who?
Well, this episode, Dipper and Mabel vs. the Future, is the penultimate episode to the series finale, being a very important and prestigious episode for many Gravity Falls analysts such as myself.
Guess who?
So as we see here, Mabel is creating dialogue with her brother Dipper, which is like half the title of the episode already.
Morning, Dipper. Guess who?
This very important moment within their bedroom is eventually what leads to the last confrontation within the exact same bedroom, being a plot type reversal instead of a joke reversal like we talked about earlier.
Morning, Dip. Who?
It starts with the most goofy tone possible so that later we can get to the point where Mabel is crying over feeling betrayed by her brother and doesn't know what to do over her fear of the, wait for it, future.
Morning, Dipper. Guess who?
Dipper and Mabel vs. the Future has an incredible first line that sets up everything about Mabel's conflict and how deep a character she truly is. And you know what? They did it with only one line. With only the first line of dialogue, they perfectly set up the plot and characters of the entire show, making this incredible first line that knocks all the others out of the water and across the ocean. All thanks to this single, brilliant first line.
Morning,
Dipper dash who? Whoa, I feel like I blacked out for a minute there. Which one were we on? Oh yeah, the series finale's first line. This finale lives in a lot of the hearts of fans, not only as the conclusion to this show that they loved, but as a way to say goodbye to these characters they've fallen in love with for these past couple years. So here's the first line we're judging this episode by. So, this intro instantly gets all the fans engaged by having all of the main and side characters screaming at each other, which is also hype because all the last episode was leading to this interaction. So reusing the screaming from the previous episode instantly makes the viewer go, oh yeah, that's what was happening last time. What happens next? It's also funny because so many guys are just yelling at each other even though they are either friends or literally family. The only thing bringing us down is that this scene is reused from the previous episode, and also, I'm not sure if you noticed this, but it's just screaming. But with how much this gets viewers instantly engaged, it just has to be this high, because what else gets people to watch things more than just screaming at them all the time for the entire video for engagement?
I don't think you're playing this right. I'm gonna say B5.
Wait. I know, I know, but I need to explain why this
B5
is so high. So imagine you're me, right? Going through 40 individual episodes of a TV show trying to think of which first line is better than the others. When judging them, you're thinking of some parameters, so you have some way to categorize them. So you think, oh, it'll probably have to engage a viewer and also relate to the overall episode as well, and also if I enjoy it, because what's the point if not? And then you come across the episode Dreamscaperers and it's just this.
I'm gonna say B5.
And it just corrupts your brain chemistry into thinking that for some reason, this literally nothing statement is somehow so funny to you that it gets this high on the list.
B5.
It has nothing to do with the plot of the episode.
B5.
It doesn't even get the viewers engaged, being as monotone as I used to be when doing videos.
I'm gonna say B5.
Like when looking at this clip, it was like Dipper was talking to me, telling me, oh, you know what I'm gonna say for my first line, MrMatter? B5.
I'm gonna say B5.
Like imagine just talking to someone in a conversation on some social media like Twitter, and you just respond with this.
I'm gonna say B5.
As if that means anything to your conversation. Being so thoughtful and strongly thinking about what their response should be, and all they end up saying is
B5.
I know this isn't funny. I know this isn't clever. I know it's literally nothing. This is even less than those deep fried memes that are so unfunny they died with Markiplier E. But I can't help but to drag it this far up the list from the depths of hell, because this is my baby. This is my clip that I enjoy and no one else ever can, because how could you ever?
I'm gonna say
B5.
Miss! Whop!
This episode might be ranked higher because of recency bias, but here's the inconveniencing's very first line.
Mabel, do you believe in ghosts?
I think this first line might not be as much as you may think, but there's actually a lot here. Dipper casually bringing up ghosts sets up the fact that this entire episode is about ghosts. I feel like him just casually bringing up ghosts might be a tiny joke as well. And then Mabel spinning on the globe in the same shot adds a lot more engagement for viewers first tuning in, while even being a setup to a joke of her falling over just because Dipper put a pencil to it.
I believe you're a big dork.
I feel like I might have put it up this high because of me making the ghost lore deep dive, but I've honestly gone too crazy to tell. Literally the only other positive I can say about this is that I like how the shot is composed and the animation of Mabel spinning is sick. So does this belong this high, or am I just a freak who's gone too far with a cartoons kids show? Nah, I'm right. This first line is sick, nasty, awesome.
Discombobulate. Discombobulate.
Headhunters. This episode foreshadowed Stan having a twin brother and gave me a background for that one video where I went to MatPat's funeral.
One that looks oddly similar to the one appearing in the opening sequence of every episode of Rick and Morty.
Oddly similar my No, you need to leave. But this episode's first line is from the best show on TV, Duck-tective.
I'm afraid your services won't be required here, sir.
Now, don't worry, that's not the entire clip, but so far I love just seeing these two lay on the floor, just straight up enjoying the show. I like how Dipper is just downing popcorn while Mabel is knitting what I suppose is one of her over 100 sweaters that she canonically has and has knitted several of.
My men have examined the evidence, and this is obviously an accident.
Now, if this first line was by the Duck-tective, this would be ranked way higher, but we still gotta love this human police guy side character, especially when he does a pun as awesome as this.
Obviously an accident.
Which even leads to the fact that Wax Stan got murdered by particularly an axe. Also love that Dipper was downing popcorn so hard that when Mabel tried to even get one piece, he just unblinkingly, without even seeming like any effort, slaps her hand away.
My men have examine the evidence, and this
Mabel gets so scared. Look at her face. OMG. Look at her face. OMG. OMG. But I think compared to everything else we've ranked so far, this is like a full scene, which is probably just because it's from a TV instead of a character saying it. So that way Dipper and Mabel can even have an interaction in the background. But I think this next episode might be even better.
examine the evidence.
Naked grandma! Naked, huh?
Ladies and gentlemen, we now return to Cash Wheel, sponsored by Chip Backers, the chip-flavored crackers.
Now this one is higher than the previous due to it being much shorter while doing much more. First off, we have so many more characters and even Waddles, who's getting served the same chip backers as the commercial on TV.
Chip Backers, the chip-flavored crackers.
And that commercial within itself is a full joke, which may not be as funny as Dipper slapping Mabel's hand away from the popcorn, but it's still pretty good. Also, I love that the sitting arrangement for this shot is wild. Like Grunkle Stan is sitting in the armchair, which makes sense, while Mabel and Waddles are on the floor eating chip backers, the chip flavored crackers. Then instead of sitting on the ground like literally the last one we ranked, Dipper is instead sitting on the uncomfortable looking skull.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Like, I've seen some people in the fandom talk about how Dipper is a freak by sitting weirdly and admitting to not showering for a week.
Please don't eat me! I haven't showered in like a week!
But like, what is this, bro? And finally, past all of what I said, this also sets up the episode like crazy. This episode, Boss Mabel, has Mabel and Grunkle Stan bet that Stan can make more money on vacation than Mabel could as the boss of the Mystery Shack. But the coolest part about this is that Grunkle Stan wasn't just saying that, he took this as a challenge to join the hit show Cash Wheel.
we now return to Cash Wheel.
Which is all set up in this first line. This first line has so much happening that it almost makes you forget how I'm ranking these entire episodes based on only the first line.
Oh, why didn't you just go home?
First off with this first line is that Mabel makes this noise. So you already know that this first line should be ranked higher than everything else so far. I love that as soon as Mabel makes that noise, Dipper looks actually pissed off.
Total domination! I am the master of attic stuff mini golf.
I also love that this detail of Mabel being great at mini golf comes up later in the Pacifica episode where she rides in the car and nothing else happens. It's such a cool detail to bring back from season 1's episode Carpe Diem all the way to season 2's Gulf War. I just think a detail like that is cool and makes the world feel much more real. Like most other cartoons and just shows in general can't even keep track of little things, like one of the main characters is awesome at mini golf, which is why a whole episode around that fact is even cooler.
Total domination! I am the master of attic stuff mini golf.
Besides being instantly engaging with Mabel yelling and making this noise, this first line also sets up the whole episode's conflict pretty well. Since the emotional conflict is about how Dipper likes hanging out with Mabel and doing stupid things like attic stuff mini golf, but hates not being able to do that while her friends are there literally every single night. Which is a very sweet story that's all set up right here with him enjoying his time even though he does look pissed off. Anyways, let's look at the rest of the first line.
From the mighty Swiss Alps to the badlands of Dipper's old laundry where man fears to tread.
Ew, dude! First Dipper does his shower for like a week, and then he has laundry so nasty that it has a fly flying around it. Like, at least put that stuff in a pile or something, Dipper. Like, damn. Make sure you clean your rooms, viewers at home. Or at least make sure that it doesn't have literal flies going around it with how nasty you are. What is wrong with you? This episode is the finale to season 1, which was the very first two-parter that Gravity Falls ever tried to do. So after a dramatic scene of the Mystery Shack getting destroyed, this is the first line said.
I just had a horrible dream that Gideon stole the deed to the Mystery Shack and kicked us out, and we all had to move in with Seuss's grandma.
I love this first line because of how it not only sets up the episode, but also recaps the previous episode for the audience. So Dipper says a lot about his very much a memory and not a dream at all dream. It then ends with a joke about needing to live with Seuss's grandma, which would be ranked much higher if the next line could count in this ranking.
We all had to move in with Seuss's grandma.
That was no dream, dude.
Like, that payoff makes this intro so perfect. Also love how it's just so fast. It gets the viewers engaged with Dipper screaming, then recaps with the previous episode, all while leading towards this episode and its joke.
That was no dream, dude.
Like, how much better of a setup can a first line be other than literally recapping the first half of the episode? This ranking really helped me appreciate the tiny details of this show. I even love that everyone could guess without even hearing the rest of the line that Dipper is actually in Seuss's grandma's house by the fact that the chair looks nothing like anything in the Mystery Shack. Man, what a good first line. I'm glad we're getting to the good ones, but since this is in the 19th place, I should say that this is lower because it's not funny by itself, and we can only really see Dipper in the frame. But we're definitely in the B to A tier first lines though, because like, man, I'm just straight up happy talking about this one, like legit gleeful, my guy. In fact, let's watch that first line to finish off this section just because we can.
I just had a horrible dream that Gideon stole the deed to the Mystery Shack and kicked us out, and we all had to move in with Seuss's grandma.
Into the Bunker. What more can I say about the spectacular Gravity Falls episode, Into the Bunker? Oh wait, I know. It's first line.
What do we do, Chadley? I thought they were dead.
That's it? Oh yeah, that's it. These first few seconds of the episode get you instantly engaged. It has the miraculous joke of bad TV horror movies. And I really just like how the lady delivers this line while the boom mic comes to the frame and even makes noise.
What do we do, Chadley?
The fact that this begins with the volume being turned up is such a cool detail as well. Also the fact that this guy is named Chadley and then makes this face the whole time.
What do we do, Chadley? I thought they were dead.
Like, dude couldn't stop making that face. He wasn't even looking like that before the close-up. But this line is lower than the others, much like the rest of these, just because it's missing a little something something to make it awesome. But I love the way they introduce this episode and how many straight-up jokes they do every second with the detail. Like, even besides what I said, I love that even though this scene is supposed to be in just full black and white, the background feels like it has such vibrancy. And even though it's not technically part of the first line, I said it before, we see the establishing shot of Wendy's house, and wow, look at that. This show looks so great even for a 2-second shot that they never reuse. I guess one big thing this first line also doesn't have is foreshadowing or setting up the episode itself. And while it seems like at most it's setting up Wendy and Dipper hanging out, it feels like it sets up a little more than you think, just like Carpe Diem's golf first line. Them watching the show without any other friends shows how even without Dipper's crush, they're still just good friends that can hang out and watch stupid movies. I even wonder if Dipper even slightly relates to the guy, especially since the previous episode has Dipper raise the dead. Raise the dead.
Dipper, what's the one thing I asked you not to do tonight?
Raise the dead.
And what did you do?
Raise the dead.
Which is also why this first line is ranked higher, just because I love that detail of Dipper just gone through this in the previous episode, which is also where they set up the fact that this episode is going into the bunker.
What do we do, Chadley? I thought they were dead.
That's right, I said into the bunker. Weird like that because of this one fact. I love narrative through lines even when it's subtle.
That's awfully hot. That's all I got.
Watch out, Gravity Falls, because at 110 degrees, we're looking at the hottest day of the summer.
This first line stunningly sets up the episode The Deep End, telling about how hot it is to the point where Grunkle Stan would drive everyone to the pool. I also love that it's that freak of nature, to be determined, is the one saying this, because I really feel like they don't use the fact that he's one of the town's only news sources, so the Toby use here is much appreciated. Also, 110 degrees is actually so crazy, especially in Oregon. The only time it's turned that crazy since it was 115 degrees in 1946 was in 2021, where the heat wave went up to 119. So the fact that the show is set in 2012 or 2013 depending on who you ask.
2013.
So that adds another detail to the weirdness of Gravity Falls. Also, it's only this far up because a squirrel explodes. I feel like that's so crazy that we don't talk about how it was so hot in Gravity Falls that a squirrel literally instantaneously combusted.
I'm locking up. Shoo, Possum, shoo!
Now this clip is high because it's not even finished yet. That's right, for any of you that remember the intro to Society of the Blind Eye, Was that voice cool? I hope that was cool. The first line literally goes for 20 seconds straight. While Gideon's was indeed 22 seconds that we talked about earlier, this one is way better. Even with the first part of this first line, Lazy Susan, the best, does a cute little sweeping song just before shooing some possums away, which sets up this awesome escalation to the joke. Awesome.
Shoo, possum, shoo! Get, McGucket, get!
Which I think is funny, but thank goodness that McGucket didn't say any actual words, or this first line would be over already. just like in episode 1. And if you don't love Lazy Susan yet, I hope this next bit is what changes your mind.
Ta-da! Good night, diner. Night, trees.
Like, I love that she's saying goodnight to the diner and trees, especially since she's saying this all to herself and most likely does it every night she locks up. Then, just like the McGucket bit, this leads to another sensational escalation.
Good night, trees. Good night, tiny men stealing my pie. Wait, what?
What? The gnomes are so desperate. They're literally stealing an older lady's pie from a windowsill. That's cartoon levels of evil. What is wrong with them? Also, why does she have a pie on her windowsill? Was she just gonna leave it overnight? Is she only shocked because it's gnomes stealing it and not like some stray cats? Or did my girl just forget?
Good night, tiny men stealing my pie.
I've talked about most of the particular things about this first line, except for the foreshadowing / setup. And boy, that's why this is so high up the list, besides it being super long. We not only have the obvious of Lazy Susan seeing something paranormal so that the Blind Eye Society can come, and seeing how peaceful and simple the life of someone in Gravity Falls is, all things considered. But we even get reintroduced to Old Man McGucket, showing that he's a freak that is equivalent to a possum to the townsfolk and even to the audience.
Get, McGucket, get!
I think this is a terrific first line that's severely helped by being so gosh dang long. Like, remember the last place loser that was Halt? Man, that was so long ago. In fact, if you've been watching this video this long, remember to subscribe. Like, clearly if you've been watching this stupid video for this long, you're ready to hear me talk about anything Gravity Falls.
Buy more TJ! Buy more TJ!
In this first line, Grunkle Stan is literally me OMG relatable.
All right, Stan. Another day, another random body pain. Here we go.
Why are his shoes wet and soaked with some sort of white liquid? Don't know, don't care. This first line isn't too engaging, but it is a great way to start this episode given its plot. The entire point of this intro is to show how boring, mundane, and unimpressive Grunkle Stan's life is. It sounds like I'm roasting him, but that's literally true. It's very similar to how Breaking Bad's first episode opens showing his boring, mundane, and unimpressive life before he sees something on TV that inspires him.
Give me the good news.
This just in. The mayor is dead.
What?
Only for Mr. Pines is becoming mayor of Gravity Falls to become the Stantorian candidate, like the title of the episode. So this first line is great setup for this episode and is even relatable funny, especially if you're 230 like me. Also, I love Grunkle Stan and have a strong bias for him. You don't want to see what this video would be like if Great Uncle Ford was the first line of an episode, believe me. Foot cam. Get Kurt pranked, Grunkle Stan.
Kurt prank! Kurt prank with Justin Kurt prank.
The Gulf War. That's the Pacifica car ride episode. Oh man, this intro must be great if it's this high up.
Who wants Stan cakes? They're like pancakes, but they probably have some of my hair in them.
I don't know about you, but I'm instantly engaged. We have Dipper watching TV with a bowl of cereal with the one and only Waddles. And then the Grunkle Stan dazzlingly walks in with the famous Stan cakes. All this intro needs is a laugh track.
Who wants Stan cakes? They're like pancakes, but they probably have some of my hair in them. Pass.
This doesn't set up the episode at all, but I like this bit much more than so many of the other first lines. And it even has a full joke because one character said the entire joke, instead of needing a second person like every other intro has, much like the Grunkle Stan sack clip from earlier.
For tonight's final illusion, we have the incredible sack of mystery. When you put your money in, it mysteriously disappears.
That clip only works with the people shoveling money in happily after Stan says that.
Oh, of course.
That makes perfect sense.
If you look at the TV, you can see Ducktective making this way better than the other Ducktective intro. Also, I like the cereal being called Overly Sensitive Owl. Like, that owl looks so stupid and happy.
Blowing bubbles. That's the lamest idea I have ever heard.
Weirdmageddon 2's first line begins on the 4th day of the apocalypse, as we get introduced to some of the last survivors on the street.
End times are here, folks. Only way to salvation is to embrace the triangular ways of our overlord.
I love that this crazy pig guy that was really going to burn a child at the stake only because she said that she was a witch.
Well, time to round up a mob.
And was part of the secret society of the Blind Eye while wearing nothing under his cloak.
That's right. I don't wear nothing under my robe. Not gonna apologize for that. Maybe y'all should apologize for being a bunch of prudes.
It's the same person to lead a cult about Bill liking triangles for no reason. Especially when you remember that Bill hates being a 2D triangle so much that he became a pyramid.
Any object with more than 3 sides is sinful. That's it. That's probably what Bill wants.
The only other person with him being Wendy's dad makes so much sense because that dude is dead stupid.
That's probably what Bill wants.
I just love how he's like, that might be what he wants, I don't know. This first line would be so much funnier though if it wasn't interrupted by Dan screaming, because this next line said is great.
I reckon I've been living a lie.
That's great. I'm so glad he said those words. It makes my brain happy. But this first line is also great for setting up this episode, because most of the plot of this episode is inside Mabel's bubble, a fantasy world intended on keeping her trapped forever. But Dipper wants to get her home and help their family and friends. So this first line showing how bad it is outside shows how bad it is while doing something new. Instead of flashbacks or something boring like that, it steps up the main stakes of the episode, so it's a great first line. It's only lower because it doesn't have the I reckon I've been living a lie, and I don't give a hoot about these two characters. I've been calling him Wendy's dad and Guy this whole time because what's his name? Tell me right now what his name is. Did you guess Sprott? Cause I wouldn't. Only know Boyish Dan Corduroy because of the ghost video I made, and that one clip where they make fun of Wendy's name.
Corduroy?
That clip has infected my brain so much I can't hear the name Corduroy without thinking of that clip. Corduroy. Corduroy.
Borderoy? Borderoy? Corduroy?
This first line belongs to one of my favorite episodes, Seuss and the Real Girl. It's all about Seuss girl, and who doesn't love them a good old Seuss story? Anyway, here's the first line. Now, this is engaging. I absolutely adore how she's aggressively la-la-lying and skipping, which then goes instantly into an ah. I could say that this sets up the episode by having Seuss be the one that sets her free, but that seems like way more of a stretch that even I couldn't say that. But I just find this clip plain old funny, and I think it's because of how aggressive it is. It's so fast. And her face gets so warped while being in the screen door that I'm like, no wonder she thinks she's dying. Look at her. She's literally going cross-eyed at the end like she's deceased.
Someone dictate my will! I'm giving it all to Waddle!
I like how she doesn't give anything to any members of her family besides Waddles. Like, I get he's voice acted by Neil deGrasse Tyson, but calm down, Mabel. Save some for your brother. I like to imagine those video essays about Mabel being a terrible person uses this as an example, like, she won't even give anything to her brother. What a selfish little or something like that. Or something. Now, this first line is undoubtedly the best one so far, by a long shot. This goes with the episode Boys Crazy, and let's just say, it goes hard.
Do you have this t-shirt in my size?
I'm not even gonna pretend. I love the voice they do, while saying the most boring sentence in the world.
Do you have this t-shirt in my size?
This is another instance of Wendy and Dipper hanging out watching TV that eventually leads to a plot later about their leading nowhere romance. But I enjoy this newer clip way more by a long shot. Also, have you noticed how many times this TV show starts out by looking at a TV? I just think that's a little interesting.
Do you have this t-shirt in my size?
Imagine being at a store and some guy comes up to you about a t-shirt and says,
Do you have this t-shirt in my size?
And then you're also Grunkle Stan in the flesh. This line doesn't have the iconic second line that brings the joke to an awesome level.
Behold, my butt.
This first line is incredible and I won't be taught otherwise. It's funny, while also being a little confusing for people just watching. That is until the butt lines.
My butt.
And that confusion makes him intrigued enough to keep watching. But that voice Dipper did was great, and I wish that guy came over and had the exact same voice, being all, "Stop making fun of me, guys! Guys, stop making fun of me!"
Do you have this t-shirt in my size?
We're in the top 10 first lines now. There can only be bangers from here, and that's final. As much of a banger a first line can be anyways. Land Before Swine. The 10th place episode's first line goes a little something like this.
Focus, deputy. Remember your training.
The gay cops. There's like 5 jokes going on in only these couple of seconds. First off, we have a guy going 99 miles per hour, which is crazy, while the cops don't even bat an eye.
Focus, deputy.
You can already see that Deputy Durlin is only looking at the book, while Sheriff Blubs is like, "Focus, my guy, you trained for this."
Focus, deputy. Remember your training. Easy, easy.
Then it's revealed to not even just be a crossword, but a kid's maze game. That's also super easy, even for a kid's maze. See, look, here's me doing it, and darn it, I got the shark again.
Easy, easy.
I like how you know that Blubs could do this very easily, but he's being so patient and calm with Durland because he wants him to be able to do it himself. But because Durland made noises, I can't include how excited Blubs get by him almost being there.
You're almost there.
Stuff like this is why I had to do the rules of the first line block of transcript, because if I was judging myself, I wouldn't have thought Durland's little puzzle solving noises counted. Anyway, here's the cute finale to this bit for your viewing pleasure.
Dang it, I almost got the treasure.
The time we spend together is treasure enough.
Look at how he smiles at him. Oh my god.
Here comes Pac-Man.
This is it, dudes. My favorite place in Gravity Falls.
Bang! Already engaged with learning about Seuss's favorite place, while the visuals are so colorful and vibrant. We got Grunkle Stan, Mabel, and of course, Seuss, all in one shot. We see the guy Grunkle Stan said the best joke of the show to while interrupting his proposal in the background of this shot.
My ex-wife still misses me, but her aim is getting better.
I love that joke so much, I sneak it into every video and you can't stop me. I am too powerful. Dude's even wearing the same red shirt and green shorts. Wonder where his wife is. You think they're okay?
My favorite place in Gravity Falls.
Then we also see Green Bill Cypher, which might seem like a quirky recolor, but he was originally supposed to be green, like the dollar bill. So this being the season 1 episode Fight Fighters might show what we almost had, what his original design could have possibly have looked like. Like particularly that color palette of green is exactly what they might have used. Imagine how different the world would be if they went with that color of green instead of the much better yellow.
A frog taught me how to cross the street. When my house was haunted, I learned how to eat ghosts. And this thing taught me how to dance.
I love this. This entire episode is about an arcade cabinet coming to life, and Seuss's plot involves going into an arcade cabinet. So this first line sets up greatly, all while having jokes, references, and weird lore. Already included that Seuss ate ghosts one time lore into my ghost lore video, but I didn't mention that they also called the Pac-Man clone Ghost Maze and the Frogger clone Frog Time. I love how it's just Frog Time, and that ghost eating line even comes back with the outro gag.
Eating my friends.
Where he eats all his friends happily. Like he'd have to turn into the gluttony category ghost with all the dang eating ghost and friends business he has going on. I'm also not sure if this counts, but I love the cutoff this clip has to McGucket dancing.
And this thing taught me how to dance.
Like he's so gleeful for just a millisecond. This intro has a lot for every fan, especially for someone like me who likes stupid little details. So even though I may have a bias, this is my list and I love this first line. Now for one of the best episodes of the best show, Not What He Seems. So for this being in 8th place is honestly surprising considering how many really good episodes are like ranked at the bottom 20 half the episodes. So here's the 8th best Gravity Falls episode, Not What He Seems, ranked only by its first line.
Come on. Should be just enough to finish the job. Whew. Can't be too careful with this stuff.
Even if this line isn't exciting by having some character scream or make noises, this is exciting to any fan of the show. This has been teased since episode 1 of the show, and even more so with the season 1 finale and season 2's first episode building up this plot. So this episode beginning with this, especially after the previous episode had McGucket say this,
Something's coming! Something big!
it's engaging. It sets up the whole episode because the whole episode is about him using this machine and using literal toxic waste that he just rubs on his head while saying he should be careful.
Whew. Can't be too careful with this stuff.
Which is funny, but like that toxic waste seeped into his skull. That's why I had a theory when I was younger, like when I was 170. Like Grunkle Stan was stupid in the finale and other points because his brain is literally irradiated. Like that shit sizzles into his scalp.
Can't be too careful with this stuff.
Which hits the other category of having a joke or being funny. So this intro has it all, but Grunkle Stan gets interrupted even though he says more with no character saying anything. It's just focused too much on the machines. But this intro is great and I can't wait to talk about it eventually in the future. I just need to talk about stupid stuff like this first line ranking first.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Irrational Treasure. You know what? I should do a ranking based on only the names because like they are wild. Most of them are puns except for like Gulf War, which made me confused as a kid because I was like, so what does this have to do with the Gulf War? But this National Treasure pun episode's first line goes a little something like this.
Haha, nacho earrings. I'm hilarious.
I love it. Everything is good about this first line and nothing can beat it, except for the next 6 first lines. Not only is this amazing, funny, cute, sensational, iconic, adjective, but it's also important to the plot. This episode has Mabel face off against Pacifica. She was in that car that one time, but instead of a competition like some other episodes, this one has Pacifica bully Mabel out of being silly and having nacho earrings.
Are you always this silly?
Hey, I can be serious.
You do have nachos hanging from your ears, hun.
This is what makes Mabel try to be more serious, but constantly fail. Until in the end, she realizes that being silly and yourself is way more valuable than seeming cool to some one-dimensional beach blonde valley girl stereotype.
You walking one-dimensional bleach blonde valley girl stereotype!
It's also a yellow triangle like Bill. Watch out, Mabel, it's Bill!
I'm seeing double here. 4 crusties.
Double Dipper begins with this first line.
Oh no, Mabel. I don't feel so good.
I need no explanation. On to the next episode. Just kidding. But I do want to say though that I love the detail. Like the only reason they have string in being silly is because Grunkle Stan is throwing a party. Silly. String. And I love these siblings just playing and having fun. Look, Mabel is so excited to be barfed on by her brother. Look at that. I feel like I may be using clips in this video too much. Like look back at my longest script yet and I put so many clips I need to edit. Oh well, while I'm
Ho ho ho! Merry!
Top 5. I'm surprised I made it this far. And you watching as well. Remember when I had a breakdown at the first line ranked? But not just any episode ranking, that's too easy. I had to do okay. I need to calm down. Man, times sure have changed. So the 5th best episode of this Gravity Falls ranking is Dipper versus Manliness. And it's all because of a freak named Tyler.
I like to get my Christmas shopping done early. Do you have anything that's in the spirit of the season?
Tyler, it is the middle of summer right now, and not only are you asking if there's something in the spirit of the winter Christmas season, but you also went to a tourist trap, a place you have been several times. You were there day 1, the Grunkle Stan's first tour when you were a child. You saw Lazy Susan's eye get zapped lazy.
Ah! My eye! I paid $15 my pants!
I love this freak because why did he say that? What is wrong with him? I love him.
I like to get my Christmas shopping done early. Do you have anything that's in the spirit of the season?
The fourth best Gravity Falls episode is Time Traveler's Pig, when ranked by the first line. Sorry, I have to keep saying that every time. Somebody is gonna clip me out of context thinking that Time Traveler's Pig or Five Fighters are somehow one of my favorite episodes to be like the top 10. They're trying to make it look like I think Coolsville sucks.
I think Coolsville sucks. No! Don't record that.
So yeah, anyway, here's the first line.
There she is, Mabel. The cheapest fare money can rent. I spared every expense.
This is finally a full Grunkle Stan joke. Every other clip, like the famous sack of mysteries,
We have the incredible sack of mystery.
or a kind of joke like the Stan cakes.
Who wants stand cakes? They're like pancakes, but they probably have some of my hair in them.
This time we have a full-on cheapskate Grunkle Stan joke.
I spared every expense.
Even though Dipper falling may not count, but I think it should if the squirrel exploding can be talked about with the other clips. We got the big three of main characters, Mabel, Dipper, and whatever that old guy's name is. This sets up the episode since the entire location and plot are both about the fair. Grunkle Stan's plot is running the fair and trying to get dunked, while Mabel is winning the greatest of all time goat waddles, or I guess the peak iconic giant pig waddles. And Dipper is trying to get with Wendy again by winning a toss game that constantly injures Wendy no matter what. I also liked how Mabel doesn't notice or hear anything until Dipper hits the ground. How is he okay?
God damn it, Bill!
The third best episode of Gravity Falls in this first line ranking is the finale arc episode Weirdmageddon 1, with this being the only first line in the episode belonging to Bill Cipher himself. He's been in the backgrounds or being what we see the camera through, but now it's his time to shine, and it makes perfect sense too.
Oh, it's happening! It's finally happening!
This is such a perfect first line. It carries the hype of the last episode, finally being like, what will happen next? It has Bill doing classic body horror while he turns three-dimensional.
Physical form, don't mind if I do!
So yeah, this first line is engaging. It's so engaging that it doesn't even need to be funny. And I don't even need to mention how this sets up the episode amazingly. It carries from the previous episode and sets out how hype this next Weirdmageddon arc really is.
Oh, it's happening! It's finally happening!
I just love him going, it's finally happening over and over, because just like the audience, we're also excited and interested to see what is going to happen now that Bill has won after so many years. I'm not even sure what else to say other than look at those colors. This first line has so much of the details we've enjoyed about so many other first lines put all into one, which shows how good of a finale arc Gravity Falls has. If it starts off this strong, then how good is this entire last couple episodes going to be? Just look at his maniacal laugh as his literal flesh is added to his body. No wonder this is ranked so high up, but there's still two more first lines I think are ranked higher. This first line is a long one, much like some others we've talked about like Lazy Susans and Gideon's. The only difference is that this one is 53 seconds, being almost a minute of a first line. This one can eat the other two longest clips and still have 10 seconds left over. So, since this is likely going to be the longest section of this longest crud video, let's just jump ahead and go through the first bit of this almost a minute long first line, making the second best episode of Gravity Falls, Season 2, Episode 1, Scary Okie.
30 long years, and it's all led up to this. My greatest achievement. Probably should have worn pants.
Already, my mans has jokes about his pants. This episode is carrying the hype of Season 1's finale, where it's revealed Grunkle Stan has a whole lab and machine under his house. So Grunkle Stan going, my greatest achievement, is not only a line that I think about randomly, but even sets up and repeats that he's been working on this machine like crazy. Reintroducing this aspect after the iconic line in the last episode, finally, I have them all.
Finally, I have them all.
And we're only in the first couple of seconds.
Feisty. I like it.
Which subtly sets up that he's never used this machine before. He's been waiting all these years just to get all 3 journals to be able to use it, which greatly sets up the twist and the idea of whether or not we should trust Grunkle Stan to begin with.
If I finally pull this off, it'll all have been worth it.
This is all he's talking about. These are great because now we know what he means and it makes sense. But to those first watching, it makes you question everything. Man, I love this show so much. I should make like videos about it or something.
If anyone ever finds out about this... Yeah, right. I've come this far. Who could possibly catch me now?
Which I love so much. Oh my gosh. But just to prove real quick that this is all in the first line, look. This first block even goes all the way to Wendy and even Gideon opening his eye. Which means this intro has Grunkle Stan, Mabel, Dipper, Wendy, Gideon, and even a surprise guest, a 4-6-finger glove. Which you know made the theorists go crazy for months to even years before Not What He Seems did the My Brother thing.
My brother.
You know what? This made me realize that Grunkle Stan has all the hard lines. He even has the finale defeat of Bill Cipher about messing with his family.
You made one fatal mistake. You messed with my family.
But the fact that scene also sets up this distrust and needing to hide stuff from Dipper and Mabel not only sets up this episode, but this whole dang season. It sets up the show's plot, not just a random episode's plot. And gosh, just the visuals are so dang good. The lighting of him in front of the portal, the code going by on his hat and face, the fact he cares enough to put Dipper and Mabel's photo there tells the audience he cares, but not without making you question everything. And the fact that this photo is here later, which adds dialogue for Mabel to talk down Dipper against Stan, is like, gosh, I love it. I love this show. And also, I just love the detail of us seeing the outside world's reaction to the machine being turned on. It is so cool. And also lets you remember that Gideon went to real adult prison. For real. And just the lighting of that blue glow is so cool.
So cool. So cool. So cool.
But even though I think this first line is so cool, and it's the longest first line we have available, I still think there's one more episode that tops overall. But let's end this section with Gideon opening his eye, and only that scene, since that's where the transcript block ends. It's gonna be like 1 second, so be ready. Here we are, ladies and gents and entities, the #1 best episode of Gravity Falls to ever exist, ranked by their first line. It's been a long and wild ride. I started off this video by hating this concept, but over time came to appreciate the first lines, which I guess does make sense since I went from worst to best, but my breakdown is still valid, okay? The #1 best episode of Gravity Falls. The very best first line they ever made is bottomless pit.
In this land of ours, there are many great pits, but none more bottomless than the bottomless pit, which, as you can see here, is bottomless.
This has everything. It sets up the episode Bottomless Pit perfectly by showing and explaining the bottomless pit. It gets you instantly engaged by Grunkle Stan talking fast and hard about this pit he has that is bottomless.
Which, as you can see here, is bottomless.
And it even has the aspect that has raised the lowest of the low episodes of Gravity Falls during this ranking, such as Dipper and Mabel versus the Future.
Morning, Dipper. Guess who?
Dreamscaperers.
I'm gonna say B5.
All the way up to the classic Boys Crazy.
Do you have this t-shirt in my size?
The fact that I love the delivery, words, and just straight up Gravity Falls-ness to the line.
But none more bottomless than the bottomless pit, which, as you can see here, is bottomless.
We got Stan, Mabel, Dipper, and even Seuss. If we could include the next line Seuss says, this would hit even harder.
Question. Is it bottomless?
Kids, could one of you try explaining this to Seuss?
I love the delivery on that, and the fact that everyone in the audience understands the concept and also the characters involved. Except Seuss. If you ever need a reminder of why the show is so good, just popping on this episode and seeing its first line will instantly tell you why Gravity Falls is one of the best shows to exist and 100% my favorite cartoon in general. It even has all the characters come out the same side of the car while Grunkle Stan is introducing something just like the submarine store.
Here we are. the Summerween Superstore.
The previous first line might have more weight to the show and plot, but this is the best first line with every other aspect. Every time I see this clip, I'm instantly happy. I'm not even gonna apologize. I love this first line, and no amount of complaining will change my mind. He's just so happy explaining this to them. And instead of getting a prop out like a calendar for the submarine store, he has a little sign he spins around. This entire episode is spent in this pit, so you can't argue that this isn't the best setup out of them all. Pretty much every other episode has a B-plot that isn't foreshadowed or anything by the intro, but not this one. And unlike the Gift Shop of Horrors intro, it isn't boring and is instead iconic, life-changing, inspiring, enjoyable, informative, beautiful, and heartwarming. It brought a tear to my eye. It is beautiful. The perfect line of Gravity Falls in the palm of my hand. I've done it. It's finally happened. It's finally really happened. Now, before I go to sleep for months, let me play the best first line one last time in its entirety. I'm so happy I finally did this, and I really hope you all enjoyed. This video took a long time and is my longest video yet. I feel like after all that, I deserve at least a comment from you about what you thought in the comment section down below. I for real go through them every once in a while, so I will be reading them. So anyways, here's the best episode of Gravity Falls, and his very first line that we ranked it by.
In this land of ours, there are many great pits, but none more bottomless than the bottomless pit, which as you can see here is bottomless.
YouTube thinks you'll like this video, so watch it next, please. Thank you everyone for the support. It's been for real life-changing, and thank you. And remember, it's a matter of what you make it matter, Knights. Bye-bye. My outros always suck. Why is that my tagline? And since when were you guys called Matter Knights? You deserve a better name than that. Wait, don't fade me out. We should talk about this at least. So what about Matterheads or like My Little Atoms or something, please? Who is that? Oh my gosh. Who was that? Oh my gosh, we gotta get out of here.